Hey there guys, and welcome back to Nostalgic Movie Night. I am your host Live Val, and tonight we are kicking off something new, a special segment that I'm calling Canon or Cannon Fodder. In this sub-series that will have random episodes throughout the normal Nostalgic Movie Night lineup, we examine adaptations of not only just older movies, but newer movies too. Movies that are based on games, books, comics, or older films. And we decide, do they enhance the source material, earning the title canon, or do they fall flat as cannon fodder? For our first episode of this kind, we're diving into the 2025 Until Dawn movie, adapted from the 2015 narrative-driven survival horror game. Until Dawn debuted on PlayStation 4 as a cinematic survival horror experience. What set it apart wasn't just jump scares, it was player choice. Every decision shaped who survived, who died, and what secrets were uncovered. The butterfly effect system made consequences feel genuinely impactful. The game wasn't the first branching story-based game, though.
You can't let me die!
But it refined the concept for modern gamers. Early text-based adventures like Zork and King's Quest allowed branching outcomes, and Indigo Prophecy, also known as Fahrenheit from 2005, visualized consequences for players in a cinematic way. Until Dawn built on this legacy, combining visuals, character development, and meaningful choice that led to multiple outcomes. But Indigo Prophecy, aka Fahrenheit, walked so Until Dawn could run. One of the game's standout features was Wendigo folklore. Derived from Algonquian legend, Wendigos are spirits of vengeance inhabiting human bodies and feeding on fear and guilt. In the game, Wendigos come into existence via desperation and eventually cannibalism, making encounters both psychological and terrifying. Now, for a fun fact, the game used motion capture for actors like Rami Malek, Hayden Panettiere, and Peter Stormare, giving characters realistic expressions that amplified immersion. The 2024 remaster upgraded visuals, controls, and accessibility for the game. This is a key reason why the 2025 movie isn't a beat-for-beat adaptation. Following every choice and scene literally would have felt like a watered-down copy, missing the game's branching story and player-driven tension. Instead, the film captures the essence of the game. The movie takes place in the same universe, but tells a standalone story. Clover and her friends explore an abandoned visitor center to find her missing sister Melanie. Instead of recreating the game scene by scene and utilizing the butterfly effect system, the film introduces a time loop mechanic, echoing the player's ability to retry choices. Each loop brings new threats and opportunities for the characters to experiment with survival strategies, mirroring the trial and error gameplay of the game itself. The ensemble cast preserves the multi-perspective tension. Focusing solely on Clover would have sacrificed suspense and the rich multi-character driven drama that defined the original experience, despite the fact that Clover's technically the main character since the group's original goal was to find her sister at the beginning of the movie. Same thing with the video game. Even though we jumped between characters throughout the game to see how the story would unfold, the main character is Josh, because the main story goal was him getting his revenge for his sister's supposed demise. That's why we would cut away every so often to his interactions with Dr. Hill, regardless if those cutaways were real or imagined by Josh himself. And the fact that Josh was taken away by a Wendigo that the player would later find out is one of his sisters. Adapting interactive gameplay into a passive medium is tricky. While the movie loses player control, it gains cinematic suspense and visual storytelling. The time loop acts as a cinematic gameplay analog, and even though the Wendigos aren't the central threat in the movie, they continue to feed on personal fears, keeping the psychological depth central to the source material. The other threats in the movie still mirror what the characters went through in the game. Additionally, the film emphasizes group dynamics under extreme stress, showing how trust, fear, and betrayal shape outcomes, a core theme of the original game. Now, a key distinction: story versus narrative. The game allowed players to switch perspectives, experiencing different consequences and endings. The movie mirrors this by showing multiple characters navigating the time loop, preserving ensemble suspense rather than a single protagonist's arc. This approach keeps the interactive spirit alive, something many adaptations fail to capture. Now, Supermassive Games praised the movie for capturing the game's feel, with the repeated survival attempts reflecting gameplay retries, consequences tied to actions, multiple threat types and adaptive strategies, and those multiple threat types mirroring what those characters went through in the original source material. And, of course, the group dynamics under pressure and how they react to those pressures. The film is packed with nods for fans. Josh Washington's patient files make an appearance. The ski lodge that's visible in the security cam footage at the end of the movie, which hints at the movie being a sequel to the game. An obvious homage is the voice actor Peter Stormare, who reprised his role as Dr. Hill. The time loop sequences echoing the
boom, butterfly effect.
Without bogging down the story. More on that later, though. The butterfly necklace, worn by Megan, referencing the game's core mechanic. There's Hartley's gas station, a nod to Chris Hartley from the game. The Psycho's mask, identical to the one Josh Washington wears in the game. The missing poster's wall. It included a minor poster referencing the Wendigo's origins from the video game. There is a playful cameo of the movie's director. These aren't just fun details, though. They reinforce the movie as a canonical continuation, connecting it to the game while giving fans little nods of acknowledgement of the source material along the way, without confusing the rest of the general audience with those references, thus remaining accessible to those newcomers. Until Dawn highlights the challenge of adapting interactive media for a passive audience. Some comparisons? Resident Evil. It created new lore loosely tied to games. Silent Hill. It emphasized atmosphere, but it did lose interactive tension. The Last of Us TV show. It adapted story faithfully while reshaping it for TV. As well as others such as The Witcher TV show, which was adapted from not only a series of video games, but a whole book series. Then there's Fallout, another TV show that was adapted from a series of video games as well. Unlike a literal adaptation, the Until Dawn movie balances fidelity and reinvention, translating core mechanics and themes rather than copying every game beat. This should give the fans of the original game something familiar but new, while not alienating new viewers who would never know the source material anyway. Now, for a bonus point here, the score and sound design in the movie pay homage to the game, using audio cues to heighten suspense, signal Wendigo presence, and mirror QuickTime event moments. Narrative-driven movies follow a clear structured path from beginning to end. We know this. Think of something like Scream.
Hello?
Hello.
Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
Or The Conjuring. They're locked into a single storyline where the strength comes from how the story is told. The Butterfly Effect from 2004 is a perfect example of this. Even though the film jumps across multiple timelines, every moment is anchored to Evan's journey. The audience can follow cause and effect, understand consequences, and stay emotionally invested because the story revolves around him. That's why, for many fans, it works so well despite the complexity.
You can pause, rewind, or slow down.
And even though critics didn't like the movie because they felt it was too convoluted, too confusing, and just hard to follow, it's what earned its cult classic title. People love that, despite the fact that critics did not. But Until Dawn is story-driven. That means it's less about following one fixed arc and more about letting events, choices, and atmosphere unfold in a way that keeps you wondering what's around the corner. This approach makes room for loops, Easter eggs, and callbacks without needing to wrap everything into a perfectly tidy narrative. It feels like you're inside the story rather than just watching one play out. Now, here's a fun what if. Since the game itself is built on the butterfly effect system, the movie could have borrowed from the film The Butterfly Effect. If Until Dawn had used that formula, we might have seen a character like Sam replay key choices and spin off into alternate realities, much closer to how the game itself works. It would have leaned even harder into being story-driven. However, here's the catch. While that works brilliantly in a game, it could have made the movie much longer or even more confusing for general audiences. If you thought the critics of The Butterfly Effect were confused by all of those different timelines and jumps back and forth, the Until Dawn movie, using that same formula from The Butterfly Effect, would have made it even more confusing, even harder to track. The cognitive load for the audience would have been too much. Gamers are used to replaying a scene to see different results. So for you fans out there, seeing that in a movie format would have been no problem for you. But for those that have never played the game, don't know the source material, again, it would have been too much. A general movie audience might get confused or even frustrated if the film keeps rewriting itself without a clear anchor. And not only that, the movie's not narrative focused. Movies usually need one main through line to maintain emotional impact. Splitting into too many branches because it's an ensemble cast could dilute character arcs and pacing. The Butterfly Effect had a clear protagonist arc in this particular instance. No matter how many timelines are shown, the audience always follows Evan's struggles and growth, so there's an emotional through line. So there's cause and effect clarity. Each timeline shows the consequences of specific choices, but it's always tied back to his character, keeping the story coherent. Cohesion despite complexity. The multiple timelines add intrigue and suspense without leaving the audience completely lost. Unfortunately for those critics, though, apparently they couldn't keep anything straight. But compare all that for The Butterfly Effect to the Until Dawn movie. The film, again, like I've stated multiple times now, it's story-driven, not strictly narrative-driven. It focuses on a group of characters in their survival in a supernatural loop. There's no single through line. In the same way, Evan's journey is central. Instead, tension, suspense, and atmosphere drive the experience. That's why the filmmakers couldn't just mimic the Butterfly Effect. The ensemble cast, branching character interactions, and horror suspense needed a format that allowed multiple perspectives without forcing viewers to track dozens of alternate realities. So yes, the Butterfly Effect works because it's narrative-driven, but that structure wouldn't have suited a story-driven ensemble survival horror adaptation like Until Dawn. It would have increased the runtime of the Until Dawn movie to about 40 to 50 hours if the movie explored every choice and outcome for each character from the game using that structure with the original story from the game. If you were to play the game from start to finish without any breaks, and you were to do a completionist run through of the game, it is about 40 to 50 hours long. And even if the movie didn't explore every choice and outcome from the game in a completionist sense, the movie would still have a 10-hour runtime. Nobody has that kind of time on their hands, especially those that are coming in new and fresh and blind to the movie. So instead, the filmmakers struck a middle ground. They gave us a loop-based story, a way to explore cause and effect without overwhelming the audience. It keeps the movie true to the spirit of the game, but also digestible as a cinematic experience, and giving fans of the game something new to see. So with all that in mind, does the 2025 Until Dawn movie earn canon status? Well, let's consider this. It's faithful to source material and ensemble structure. It preserves Wendigo folklore and psychological depth, even though Wendigos aren't the central threat. It cleverly translates game mechanics, time loop equals gameplay analog. And it includes meaningful nods to old fans without alienating newcomers. So what's the verdict, you may ask? It's canon. It expands the universe thoughtfully, rewards both fans and newcomers, and preserves the survival horror essence. That wraps up the debut of Cannon or Cannon Fodder. We'll continue exploring adaptations across media, deciding which deserve canon and which are cannon fodder. What do you think? Does Until Dawn earn canon, or do you still disagree? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more nostalgic movie night content. Remember, sometimes the scariest thing isn't the monster outside, it's the story you're a part of.